Tell us about the workshops that you will be participating in.
Okay, great. Personally, I am helping to organize a workshop on, if you don't mind, I'm going to look at my computer to get some exact titles, on fighting environmental injustices, land grabs, and resource theft, connecting up our experiences here in Detroit with land grabs that are attempting to disempower and really steal what wealth we have been able to amass here in Detroit, transfer that into white corporate capital-based systems, and also disempower us politically. Connecting that mechanism with the global mechanism that has been stealing land in South America, stealing land from the Palestinian people, excuse me, stealing the use of water, legislating the use of water, forbidding the use of water, really for entire peoples, in which Palestinian peoples have their water use regulated and are only allowed to use less than 50% of what the United Nations feels is a humanitarian minimum. You know, people are getting their water taken and regulated, but that's also is being tied with the corporate use of water, for them to have the ownership of the water. So it's not only a humanitarian crisis, but it's evidence of this economic model that is putting profits over people. So I'm very honored to be involved in that workshop, working with activists from Life Source, which is a Palestinian water organization, and EWASH. There's a organization that's combating the Jewish National Fund, which uses the guise of environmentalism and planting trees to destroy Palestinian communities by planting trees over Palestinian villages and saying that we're trying to restore nature. But if you look at their strategic and very corrupt use of environmentalism, you'll see that it's being used to destroy communities and prohibit Palestinians from laying claim to this area by calling them quote-unquote natural regions, when they were regions of inhabitants, when they were part of the ancient homelands. And so then it creates the guise, oh, the Palestinians, they hate the environment, or they're not as environmental as the Israelis, or oh, the Israelis are better caretakers of the environment because the Palestinians don't want us to plant our trees. So we see that there's this major tension between the environmental and environmental justice movement. When we're, as an environmental justice movement, we recognize the environments, but we're looking at us as humans and the fact that we live and we care for our environment. And we recognize that there are a lot of false solutions that are using the language of environmentalism in order to destroy, or in order to turn towards that profit-making or that colonialism or that imperialistic nature. They're using that language, they're using that appeal of environmentalism. So that's one major thing that we're working with. I'm in correspondence. There's going to be some major youth activities. I'm not on those planning committees, but as I'm working with the Young Educators Alliance and other groups, I'm in touch, began correspondence with the Palestinian youth movement, like, hey, I'm here, let's be in touch. And so I'll be participating and reporting back on some of the youth activities. And just this week, I found out about a very exciting, this is actually the first time that I've corresponded about it, but they're going to have a special session which is going to work with Afro-Brazilians and the Palestinian people and look at what are the connections in those communities. Just recently, the email said the Afro-Brazilians are starting to make special connections with the Palestinian communities. And so myself and a brother named Kali from the Malcolm X grassroots movement, who is deep in the African diaspora and deep in social justice and black communities, we're going to be American delegates that will be participating and learning from this correspondence related to the African diaspora. So I'm very excited about that. And just to show you the power of the thinking and the power of the connections that are going on, I just wanted to let you know about the other workshops that I'm not directly involved in, but it'll give you a sense of the connections that we're making. One of them is called Settler Colonialism, Apartheid, Racism, how do these global systems interact with each other, and how do their similarities and differences inform our joint struggle against them. So it recognizes that we all are influenced by settler colonialism, which is that tendency to totally genocidally take a people's land, wash away the history, just colonialize the whole area and settle it and say that you're creating something new. That's the whole history of the United States, to say that we support the settlers, the Indians are the bad guys, the indigenous people don't exist, this land was undeveloped, and now we're bringing something new into this area. So we may not have that language, but we're very familiar with it. We live in it here in the United States. In terms of, people don't think of this as indigenous land, they think of it as the United States. And that's the same thing that they're enforcing on that country in terms of, no, don't think of it as Palestine. Don't think of it as the land of the Palestinian peoples. Think of it as Israel. Get permission from Israel. Talk to Israel. So that's that dynamic of settler colonialism. And then there's an apartheid state in which even in Israel, even the Palestinians that are Israeli citizens don't have free rule. They don't even have all the rights that they enjoy, so that the Israeli citizens enjoy. So you have both the settler colonialism and apartheid. And here in the United States, we're familiar with Jim Crow. We're familiar with, blacks can't do this, these people can't do this. So we've seen both of those dynamics here. And so this workshop is going to talk about how the whole Palestinian diaspora is affected by those patterns. There's going to be a workshop on labor in Palestine, challenging complicity and formulating strategies for justice. It recognizes that a lot of the labor really has to struggle to define their relationship with Israel, not having complicity with the Israeli movements, and how to define international labor organizations to have relationships and struggle with the Palestinian people. There's one which I really am captivated by, on political imprisonment, mass incarceration, and state repression, looking at the prison industrial complex from Palestine to Pelican Bay. It put out in the literature the shocking statistic, which I didn't even know, that over 40% of Palestinian men in the West Bank and Gaza have been imprisoned in Israeli jails. So we're very familiar with these dynamics here in the United States, and we see that prison is used to keep a people down. Prison is used to destroy a community, gather up the men, gather up very significant portions of the population, used to silence political voices. So I'm very captivated to see how that's going on. And we have people that are going to talk about that and help. But at the same time, the prisoners is a very important site of resistance. And they're going to report back on some of the prison movements, which are actually moving the whole Palestinian struggle forward. Anti-Arab, anti-Muslim racism, and the intensification of repression. We're at a movement in which we see from spying, surveillance, terrorism charges, we see that the Arab and Muslim communities are really under that spotlight. They're really getting the repression. We're very familiar in our communities, coming from the 60s, 70s, when our communities was just being infiltrated, beaten down, targeted. So it's really an opportunity. And it weakened the whole community. It weakened and created, the community that allowed drugs to proliferate, allowed our community to be so weakened that people even become scared to speak out, become scared to be part of an organization, it disconnects that leadership from our community. And so they're going through that. Now the Arab and Muslims are targeted in so many ways, and so they want to just raise that awareness of, what's happening to almost criminalize the whole community.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And we're just about finished with this interview. I want to ask just one more question.
Yes.
If you can share, it's hard to anticipate what to expect in entering this kind of space, but what are some takeaways that going into the Free Palestine Social Forum that you would like to bring back and share, even knowing that may change once you get down there?
First and foremost, connections. First and foremost, just meeting people. I really have an expectation that since Dearborn is a major center within the Palestinian and especially the Arab community, I have a feeling that I might meet some local people while I'm there that will help form even relationships that EMEAC can take back and activate. Secondly, we want to use this as a jump off towards more connections to maybe even have a Detroit delegation to go to Palestine in the next year or two. But whether that happens or not, definitely so to share some stories about Detroit, to help to gain solidarity with Detroit, and then also to figure out what is the language, what is the things that is going to connect our black and our urban communities here in Detroit with the Palestinian struggle, and to let people that are active in these struggles in Palestine know about our urban struggles, and again find out what is the language that's going to express our struggle to them who is going under such repression. Lastly, if I can, I've seen the movies about the Palestinian hip hop. I would love to connect up with the hip hop and cultural forces that are in play. So I just want to bring back as much as I can to our communities to enliven our struggle here in Detroit and the struggle for the Palestinian community.
Thank you. I'd like to thank again Will Copeland, hip-hop artist, Detroit activist, EMEAC Youth Director. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today.